believe I think some people will join. Just reminding them through text. Yeah, so this is Auckland Power Platform User Group. So I'm one of the Auckland Power Platform User Group leader, and Hamish is actually supporting, and Greg, also from Datacom, he's also like backing up the Power Platform User Group. So this is the story like we do in person as well as excuse me, my voice, as well as the online event depends on the speaker availability. Also, the key thing for the Power Platform User Group is covering all the Power Platform sessions. Like we are not touching any Dynamics area, but you can see almost all of the Power Platform products, including Power Pages, which is brand new to the family recently, and Bhargav is one of the expert. Just a basic house rules, like if you're like joining online, please mute yourself, and then the slide deck will be shared, and also some of the links, the social medias and the social handles will be also be shared. And so we do monthly meetups. Depends on the speaker availability. We find a very good experts across the globe, and then especially like MVPs, and then the area experts, also like key speakers across the Microsoft area and the Power Platform. And we bring them here to actually share their knowledge, and also like the main purpose is actually to upskill. So that's the key thing here. Also, the agenda for today is, before I jump into that, so you can see there are like various groups, excuse me, within New Zealand. So first one is ours, which is Auckland Power Platform User Group, and then Dynamics 365 Power Platform. That is actually another group which is run by like Greg and Hamish, and then Wellington Dynamics, which is by Rami, and Christchurch is actually from Richard, right? So I will share all the links anyway in the chat. Feel free to join each and every group. So if you want to learn more, so these are all like a free community where you can actually like enhance your knowledge. And then the show today is all about exploring pro-code tools for Microsoft Power Pages. So Bhargav is an active speaker, and he's a solution architect from Tata Consultancy Service based in India, and he has more than a decade of experience in different industry, like starting from the core software. Also, I think noticed very keenly, like Bhargav was very active last few months, and he was sharing his knowledge throughout the Pune event and some very good event based in India, right? So that's why, like I know, like Bhargav is, this is a guy. Let's get him. And yeah, as I said, like Bhargav has done many sessions. So this Power Pro Code tools for Microsoft Power Pages, which is one of the key thing, like Power Pages, you can do most of the things like out of the box, but there are like some scenarios which we really don't know. Like you want to integrate with third-party APIs, and then you want to go beyond what is not available in out of the box. So Bhargav is here to actually share the story, and then teach us like how you can actually take this to the next level, right? Over to you, Bhargav.
Thanks, Raghavan. So good morning, good evening to everybody. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Let me know if you can see.
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. So I think already Raghavan mentioned already about a quick brief about myself, but to start with, I'm actually a solution architect with over 15 years of experience. Primarily started with MOS 2007, .NET, ASP.NET, and then over the years been more of a SharePoint guy. But in the last 2.5 to 3 years, I kind of moved towards the Power Platform, low code, no code, or rapid acceleration development concepts. I think the experience that I carry from coming from a .NET background, SharePoint background has quite helped me, with the core concepts pertaining to the Power Pages, and that's why I kind of picked it up as my forte as well when it comes to delivering sessions or speaking about it. I'm part of a very niche and core group of team members. I would say around 10 members only within TCS, delivering high value and high value proposition for the entire organization, especially in the Microsoft business unit, dealing right from pre-sales to the developing industry standard solutions and being up with the emerging trends in technology, especially within Power Platform. And that's about quickly about what I do. And I'm a poet by passion. I'm actually from Bangalore, but originally from a small town called Madanapalli, which is in the state of Andhra Pradesh in India. So if you want to reach out to me, this is my email ID and Twitter handles and the LinkedIn. I'll just take a 20-second pause here if you would like to make a quick note or would like to scan through the QR code, and if there are any problems or interesting challenges that you would like to discuss pertaining to Power Pages. I might not know everything, but definitely it'll be a great opportunity to uh, talk to you guys, connect with you, collaborate to see if we can solve business problems together and develop intelligent solutions. So uh, yeah, another 5 seconds and then I'll move on. Yeah. So overall, if you look at it, where does Power Pages? I mean, a brief introduction of about Power Pages is definitely necessary. There could be somebody who could be starting new with it. So overall, if you look at it, Power Platform has the following verticals, which is basically the oldest verticals that you could probably think of is Power Apps. That's where it all started, right? So the application developed for internal users of the organization where your enterprise data is exposed quite well. Data was being the backbone. And if you wanted to add any business process automations and workflow automations, you would use Power Automate. And any analytical, reports or dashboards that you would like to plug in based on the transactional data that you already have for your enterprise, you would use Power BI. And for all your chatbot kind of experience or omni-channel experience, you would use Power Virtual Agents. So Microsoft was already well invested in all of these particular verticals. Overall, Power Pages is basically something that was a new addition to the overall Power Platform verticals. And this was traditionally earlier called as Power Apps portals, and it came from the Dynamics world or the CRM world. And Microsoft acquired a company called ADX Studio, and from then on, it kind of started showcasing those portal building capabilities, especially where there were external use case scenarios. Overall, I would say uh, most of the verticals that we see here lean towards no code, low code, but I would say Power Pages, especially if you would like to go around developing your own wireframes or your own prototypes, and in terms of your UI, UX, and scalability and stuff, I would say Power Pages is still leaning more towards pro code rather than no code or low code. Of course, for the initial site and structure and initial establishment of your very basic set of pages, I think you would probably rely upon some of the portal management app features or the Power Pages Design Studio, which kind of falls under the no code, low code aspect. But I would say traditionally, if you want to build anything beyond what is available out of the box, then I would definitely say that it will fall or lean towards more towards pro code. So especially when planning projects pertaining to Power Pages, I kind of always recommend to break down the requirements into no code, low code, and pro code, so that you get a very effective understanding of where your project might be going in terms of your cost estimates and timelines. So having said that, I'll just take a quick pause. Any questions till now? Okay, I'll move on. So Microsoft Power Pages. So we talked about already the low code to pro code capabilities, right? So what you see in orange mapped in this particular architecture diagram is more leaning towards the low code or whatever some of the standard set of features which are available. And what you see to the right is basically the pro code scenarios where especially you are developing your own JavaScript HTML components, developing your own front end code, and playing around with some of the developing certain interactive components as well. With the recent addition of web template components, I'm not sure how many of you got a chance to look at it, but I come from the SharePoint world and I feel that it was an intelligent introduction, web template components being a preview. I can also showcase a quick demo about it today. So these Web template components, I mean, fundamentally relies upon the web template infrastructure, which we already have for Power Pages, but it's more like you can expose certain set of properties to your content authors or content managers, whereby you can develop certain intelligent, reusable, or generic kind of solutions as well. So imagine that you would want to display a carousel with images, and you want to set certain time interval between the carousel movement of the images. Then you would probably want to have a property which you would have control upon. And when you add that particular web template component onto the page, you would want to be able to set a particular value. So we'll see certain in part of the demo as to how we can go about developing these web template components, and how to use these pro code tools available in order to be able to develop these particular such interactive. So overall, yeah. So overall, there are out of the box, the Power Pages Design Studio, anyways, is I mean, comes with a quite a good capability to add your own set of components, add your section layout and stuff. But I would want to probably focus more about what kind of pro code tools which are available in line with the topic of the session today. Um, we have Visual Studio Code for Web, which is the first option which we have, and it is actually exposed through Power Pages Design Studio. Next is we can actually download the entire contents of a particular portal and make any changes pertaining to that particular portal and upload them as well. And that can be done directly from Visual Studio Code. We need to rely upon the Power Platform Tools extension and the Power Platform CLI, which is more like a command line interface using the terminal from the Visual Studio Code in order to be able to download and upload the portal. And the Copilot capability. So Visual Studio Code has recently got the Copilot capabilities as well. And we'll look at a few prompts on how Copilot is still evolving. I would say it is still evolving, but I think certain places I feel that it does really provide intelligent responses. Depends upon the prompt as well, and depends upon the context, especially when we kind of send out the query. It's important to ensure that the right file or the right contextual file is open for the prompt to be able to be processed in a much better fashion, and the response to be more in line to what we are expecting. Third option is the XRM toolbox, which kind of has certain quite a lot of tools which have been built by certain industry experts, most of them coming from the dynamics world, and they have contributed to the community and more like a free tool that you can utilize for much of your operations. So I personally feel that the Fetch XML builder and the portal code editor kind of really help advance your your ways of working with Power Pages. And the last one, but not the least, is the Dataverse REST API builder, which is actually available from uh, both both the XRM toolbox as well as the browser. So these are the overall pro code tools available. Uh, I personally do not believe much in slides, so I will just directly go into the actual aspects. So we will start looking at one by one. So I have a particular site here. Sorry, let me just go to the root so that I can just give you a map of the sites that I have created. So what I have done is, for the purpose of this particular demo, I have wired up about 3 sites, very basic set of sites, just to use different starter templates. And one of them I've configured, one of them is just out of the box, and one of them is a different template apart from the starter template, which is the registration template. So why each of these sites have been created is something that I will explain through the course of the event. So, but this particular site, which is Primus Praxis, is a site that has been built where I have created the web template component that I was speaking about. But let's quickly go ahead and edit this particular site and look at, um, one second, let it open. Yeah. So the first thing that you see already you observe is Copilot is already introduced here to the Design Studio as well. Um, I think it was recently announced as generally available as well. But what I have seen observed is if it is not available in your tenant, then it must be your development environment must be in the United States region, and your browser must be in the United States language, especially if you are accessing it from India. That's what I've observed. Not sure about how it might span out in Auckland, but the Copilot is already available on the Power Pages Design Studio. So considering that you have the Design Studio here pretty much to work with your pages, what I have done here is I have a homepage which I've just configured with some video and basic text and background images. And then I have a concept space in which I have basically a form, a page to create a particular offer, view a particular offer, edit a particular offer. And I've tied it all down to a particular grid here in a page called All Praxis Offers. And I've also created the web template component which dynamically fetches the information from a table or a solution that I have created. So what I have done is I have, for the purpose of this demo, created a solution. The solution is created from the home page, which is the root, and the name of the solution I've provided is Praxis Primus, and the table name that I have is Praxis Offers. Here, what you can see, as you can observe, uh, it has very basic set of records and have a very, few set of columns, which is name, description, and image column. So, and I also have a file column. I have both the image and file column just to work with some of the query builders. I wanted to ensure that we look at some basic columns along with some complex, medium to complex columns as well. So I didn't want to have a very large column set, but I'm just trying to show very basics so that you can take use from it and you can explore as well. So, so what you see here is a very basic table with two records. So let's go back to the home page and quickly review this. So from the Design Studio, pretty much what you see here in the homepage, you can, you have control to, pretty much change the background and work with all your, containers and stuff. From the Design Studio itself, so or you can use all these particular out of the box available options. Like for example, I can add a section, I can add a one column section, I can go ahead and I can add a text or a button, I can configure forms, a multi-step form as well, add spacers, and then also I have the ability to integrate Power BI reports, and wherever needed, I can also float in certain iframes. So this is the out of the box capability that we have. But if there is something beyond this, what can we do? So the first option that we have here is to be able to, let's look at a quick demo of what is available within the the page. So I'm going to go to this page called All Praxis Offers. So what this does is I'm binding a particular out of the box list component here, and the list component, basically I have configured all the edit and view and create forms here. So the create form is actually associated here. The view and the edit forms are associated here. And whatever you're seeing, the dynamic carousel is built upon this particular table that we saw in the backend, right? So whatever is being displayed here. So let's go ahead and try to add a new record. So the idea is I'm just going to copy the same description. So one thing that you know about forms is that whenever you create a particular record, you will not see the file or the image controls after it is created. You might want to click back on edit and then choose the file. So you need to have the record in existence before you can actually work with it. So I'm just going to upload one image that I have here. And I'm also going to upload a picture column similarly, and I'm going to submit. So once this is submitted, if I can refresh my page, the web template component that you see here that has been plugged in is a custom component that has been built through Visual Studio Code. So what you see here is I can go here, and then the last one was the latest record that we added, and it is part of the dynamic component. So how will we be able to do this? So let's look at the first option that we have. You can go ahead and you can develop such intelligent components. For the first option that you have is you can open the Visual Studio Code for web. So once um, you click on there on the edit code option, it loads that in a separate browser window, and then it fetches every time certain extensions and ensures that it performs certain checks in the background, and it installs certain tools for it to effectively work. So I personally do not, unless and until there are very small set of changes or quick changes that are required on the pages, I do not work with Visual Studio Code for web. I kind of rely upon the Visual Studio Code in itself. But if there is something like a quick change that you would like to make in the text or here, I'm just going to add the number 2, quickly save here, just to say how it is actually reflecting. So the moment you click on save here, you need to ensure that you take a quick look here on the page here. If you see a particular dot here to the left, that means that the page has not been saved. So you might want to save it again. Once it is saved, you come back here and you will see an active sync window available in the Design Studio. You click on the sync, only then it freshly brings in all the changes back from the tables in the background, and then it kind of allows you to preview the particular file as well. So let's look at where we made the change. I think it was made in the home page. So after it is refreshed, I'm going to close this and just preview again.
What is the custom component you mentioned?
The custom component that was the dynamic carousel that you saw, it is actually a web template component.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah. Earlier we had the concept of web templates. Now Microsoft has introduced web template components which are in preview in nature. And we'll take a look as to how those properties are exposed, right? So first, let me explain what is the web template component, and I'll arrive at how it actually looks within the how to include it from the pro code approach as well.
Yeah, cool.
I think so. The quick change is already done here. The tool what we added has been added. So now the next set is I'm not going to go deep into the capabilities of here, but one thing I would always see is there are certain errors that you get, fatal errors when we access the Visual Studio Code for web. Usually that is because sometimes you might have certain conditional access policies that have been enabled, and sometimes you don't have the required access and stuff. That's the reason you get these particular errors. Overall, when it is enabled more from Visual Studio Code, I feel that it is a bit easier to work with. So let me go to the second option. So I've closed that, and what I'm doing here is gone to the second option in which you see Visual Studio Code. So the first thing that happens is whenever you load Visual Studio Code, here as well, it kind of relies upon loading all the extensions, and it brings in the capabilities similarly like what you saw, like the Copilot capabilities. So the three things that we had listed for Visual Studio Code was the Power Platform Tools extension. We'll take a look at that, the CLI as well as the Copilot capabilities. Now, what happened is um, before coming into the session, I already configured it, so I can showcase how the extensions have been added. It's pretty much simple. You can go here and look for these particular extensions from this particular tab on the Visual Studio Code. You can add the following extensions. I have quite a few extensions, but the most important one and significant one that is usually utilized in order to work with sites, your downloaded sites, is the Power Platform tools. So what you see here is I have actually have the latest version here. And then once you install this, it is already installed in my case. When you actually load this for the first time, you can see that there is a button called, okay, 1 second, somebody, yeah. Um, there's a button called install. You click on that, and once that is done, you can click on set file icon theme so that you know uh, the portal's icons are also available for you. You click on this, and then the portal's icons are available. So pretty much this completes your installation of the Power Platform tools, which is an important extension for you to work with. Once this is done, um, the next option is to ensure that you have the terminal activated. So I'm going to go to a new terminal, which is more like the Windows terminal, and you have to install something called the Power Platform CLI. So it is more like you have a command called pack install latest. You can go to Windows PowerShell and then you can install that. Once that is done, you can pretty much work with your um, portal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a basic um, authentication and get all the portals available in my environment. So what I've done here is I have a connection which already established to my environment, the Praxis environment, with the following ID, the credentials. So that's the reason it is able to quickly get in all the three sites. So what you see here is it is able to list all the sites that are actually part of my current environment that I'm working with. So there are three sites like we saw, and all three sites have been provided here. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I am going to download the Maximus Prime out of the box starter layout, and I'll tell you why I'm going to download that. So I want it to be downloaded here, and I want to change the ID. So let me remove this. So you copy the website ID that you want to download and then you paste it. So here in my case, the website ID, and then overwrite is an option to say if there are existing files already downloaded, you just overwrite on top of them. And the last one that you see here is -mv, which is required to show to say that you want to download based on the new enhanced model. If you remove this, there were what I've seen recently is if I just do this, let me just try to showcase. Sorry, I think mistyped it. Yeah. So it doesn't actually, it throws errors sometimes that it is unable to get that particular, uh, entities from that particular org. So what I observed is because of the recent changes that they have done to the Power Pages infrastructure, we have something called the standard model and the enhanced data model. The enhanced data model has been introduced to ensure that you don't rely upon all the old solutions or the old set of tables, certain standard tables that were being packed and when the sites were being created, and it used to take longer time for the sites to provision as well. So that way it was difficult for users, like probably you create a site, provision it, people used to go for a coffee, come back after 15 minutes, and then the site was ready. But now with the introduction of the enhanced data model, things are quite fast, the provisioning is quite fast, and it only uses a certain set of very basic set of standard tables from the ADX world, and very basic wireframes are taken into account, and the site creations are much faster. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the path, and I'm going to say MV2. So like you saw that since we provided the -mv2, it is able to successfully download all the files, starts with all the basic set of wrappers that you see onto the portal management app. So let's go to the portal management app to take a quick look on. So if you would like to go to the portal management app, you can click from here. And it pretty much takes you to this, your organization URL, and it opens the particular site. So whatever you see here, some of the basic set of files that are required for the site, the settings, web files, web templates, web pages, all of this that you would probably use the portal management app earlier to develop, you can pretty much do that from Visual Studio Code now because you have completely downloaded all those particular wrappers onto your local machine using Visual Studio Code. So the next thing that I would probably do after the downloading of the particular site is I wanted to mention to you that before coming into this particular call, I was working with these sites and I had an issue with the Praxis site that I had. So whenever I'm downloading and trying to upload a particular web template component, it is throwing errors from Visual Studio Code. So through the course of this particular demo, I wanted to see if I can use the same web template component which I have created here on this particular page and add the pretty much or include the pretty much reusable component on the new site which I have created. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So this is the component and I will open the code quickly to do a walkthrough. And here what you see is the the site that we did a walkthrough of, and I am opening the web template here. So what I'm doing is I'm making a fetch XML query to a table, to the Praxis offers table that I have and fetching all these particular columns. We'll look at how we are building these particular fetch XML queries. And then I'm doing certain conditional based creation of the HTML code for displaying the carousel. And I'm using Liquid with a combination of HTML to go ahead and do this. And then pretty much setting the right and the left arrows with a bit of style elements. And the most important aspect, which is the recent addition, which I was talking about, which was not available earlier with web templates, was the power to add a manifest. What I have done here is I've added a manifest file and I've set the type as functional. There are two types of a manifest that you can add. One is functional, another one is layout as well. So you can pretty much define properties or attributes pertaining to the layout as well. I have not explored the layout one yet, but so I'm not going to comment there, but the functional ones I have explored. And here I have exposed four properties: title, interval, count, and height. So let's just quickly go and check how this particular web template is included onto my page. So once this template is deployed, you have the tag called include, which is a liquid tag. And I'm going to open the all Praxis offers page and open the HTML to showcase. I think okay, something wrong with the way it is. Let's go ahead and try to open it from Visual Studio Code and take a quick look as to how it is being displayed. Yeah. So if you see, the way to include a web template component is as simple as once the web template component is created, the manifest file is created, and you have dynamically used those particular manifest properties or attributes within your web template. All you have to do is include it and set those particular properties as well here. So this is the game changer. So this provides the users to create interactive components whereby your content authors or content managers can actually come in reality include this. As a pro developer, you might have included this in a certain layout of a particular page or certain section and you deploy this. But as a content manager, I can come and set the height, change the count of the display of the number of items to display in the carousel, or change the interval that I would like to display this the um, carousel for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, I'm not going to sync here, I've not done any changes, but I'm just going to showcase when I click here on the component, how these particular properties are actually displayed. So if you look if somebody is coming from the SharePoint world and understands how web parts were being built traditionally, where you had the ability to create certain web part properties, and you can actually dynamically set those values and make those particular changes on the fly with the particular page. It's as similar as that. So here you have the edit custom component action, and then these are all the properties that we have exposed for that particular web template component, and we can now go ahead and we can make the change here. So I'm going to make it 5,000, and I know that I have more than 2 records. So I'm going to set it to only 2 and check what happens to my page. So generally what happens, I click somewhere else so that the sync works properly. It takes a while sometimes with sync. I wish Microsoft does something to the whole sync operation, because I feel that quite a lot of the systems are still, quite a lot of the capabilities are still lying under the portal management app under the bed. And at some point of time, probably in the future, I feel that most of these capabilities will come into the design studio. We see that slowly capabilities are actually arriving to the design studio itself. It will be great if Microsoft can actually probably put one admin layer here in which they can expose all those particular properties and do away with those sync operations in some form or fashion. Having said that, go back to the page. The sync is performed. Let's go to the preview of the page. It's taking some time. Okay, by the time it loads, I'll quickly come in here. And whenever um, you load Visual Studio Code now, you have the ability to actually configure Copilot. So Copilot is added here to the Power Platform section. If you see, I already have certain authentication profiles, and I've set the performed all the configurations. That's why you can see here. So before we start with Copilot and how it can actually enable the Pro Code developers, let's quickly look at the site if it has, yeah. So there are 2 items. No, I think something wrong. So here, when we are interacting with Copilot, it becomes important that we open the specific file where we are asking the questions, right? For example, if we are working with a web page, then it's better to open the web page so that it is Copilot understands the context. So here, let me just, before we start, okay, let's quickly check if the at least the seconds has been taken into account. We had changed it from 5 to 3. Okay, we'll come back to this. Okay, let's go back here. Yeah. So what I recommend is go to the web pages, and then here you need to have the context set. So let's say I want to create a new page. Is it possible to do that from Visual Studio Code? Yes, with the recent improvements that have been made to Visual Studio Code, there's something called Power Pages Generator, which gets installed once you open Visual Studio Code, and you can pretty much add these particular templates. Uh, you can add a page template, web template, content snippets, assets pertaining to your web files and stuff. But what I will go ahead and do here is I will add a web page, but I will not do that here in this particular site. I will do it in the site that I intend, um, which is the other site. Yes, let me just open. Yeah. So I'm going to do it here. And I'll say test web page. And I'm going to choose the default studio template, add it to the home itself. Yeah. So as you can see, HTML has been, a page has been added here. So let's go to Copilot here and use certain prompts. So what can Copilot do, right? So let me say, let's look at certain negation scenarios. So some of the negation scenarios are as follows. Let's say I will add the following query, which says, provide me Python code for displaying the top 50 Fibonacci series of numbers. Right? This is one particular prompt. And as you see, it's not able to relate to it. And it's saying you can get help with HTML, CSS, and JS language. Currently, it is limited to English, and then it is also limited to these following languages. Although it does some amount of help with the liquid template language, it does not really, it is not yet there with actually generating the manifest file for you, like we saw with the web template component. But I think based on the evolution, it might be in a position to be able to do that as well. So I'm just going to quickly add one more prompt, which is say, can you write me a poem on the topic Copilot? And still it is not able to understand. Now let's look at a positive scenario in which we can change the prompt in order for it to do what it is intended to do. So I'm going to change that particular prompt and say, can you write me a poem using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on the topic Copilot? Fingers crossed. Yeah, yeah, it is able to pretty much write that. And what I'm going to do here is, unless I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to directly insert code. So two things that you can do is, one is copy to clipboard and directly insert this. And since my context is a web page, I'm going to insert here and I'm going to save this. Go back to my terminal. And I'm going to do a PA portal list again. No, I just don't have to do that. PA portal upload. And then I'm going to change the path here.
This Copilot is still in US.
Maybe use
Can
a
you-
notepad, Bhargav.
Can you repeat that?
No, Raghavan was saying Copilot was there still in US. It is taking some time to come here across the other regions.
Yes. So what we are doing here is, so yeah, so this is the error I'm getting pretty much. I created a new site as well when I was trying to upload with the enhanced data model. What I'm seeing with this particular environment is constantly it is not allowing me to upload the particular file or make any changes. Although it says that Power Pages website uploaded successfully in 5 seconds. Some of the core changes that we are making to the templates from the from the Visual Studio Code are not working. So if probably we just take this and whatever code that has been generated by Copilot, we will go here and we will just go to the site, create a new page, call it a test page, add it here, go to Visual Studio Code for web. But ideally, in an ideal world, so if you're a pro code developer, finish all the changes, add all the files, make all the changes, use Copilot however you want, pertaining to CSS, JavaScript, everything. And then once it is done, you just upload it. save all the changes and upload it, it should actually upload all the particular artifacts. It could be a web file, it could be a web template, and it could be a page template. Unfortunately, today it's demo bud's not in favor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly add the same poem that was generated so that we can see how it looks. And I'm going to sync. So we will just create one more prompt. Yeah, so if you look at it, it's pretty much able to generate a poem dynamically and also create a HTML, CSS, and some amount of structure it has provided to the page. So it kind of really unlocks the productivity and unleashes the creativity. Copilot really is there to really help you like a buddy who can really help you kickstart with that initial draft which is not available in your mind. So it can help you with that. From the old school, I feel that there was a concept called a rubber ducking. When you had nobody in office and then you had a problem to solve, you would have a rubber duck on your table and you would talk to it and you explain the problem, and the rubber duck, while you are explaining the problem to the rubber duck, you are almost solving the problem in itself. You're getting a solution towards it. So that kind of Copilot kind of is that buddy that you always wanted to have to help you with certain, ignition that you needed always with your productivity. So this is pretty much a very basic skeleton, but you can enhance it. You can add your own CSS layer, JavaScript, animate it, and do as much as you want from Visual Studio Code. So the last prompt that I just wanted to quickly showcase is it can also get inspired by layout. So if, for example, I have just chosen Google News layout and I want to generate some um, HTML and JavaScript and CSS pertaining to that particular layout. And if I ask Copilot to do that, it pretty much can uh, actually do that. And if I can want to generate JavaScript code with the regular expression to validate an email column in context table, can it do that? So not everything that Copilot provides is probably a good response, right? So that is why Microsoft has provided what is called as the feedback button here. If you feel that it has certain mistakes, please go ahead and provide the feedback so that it kind of enhances its responses for the future. The last prompt I will showcase is generate a JavaScript code with a regular expression to validate an email column in a context data table, which is pretty much what we kind of will do while as a pro code developer, right? We kind of validate certain fields, and whenever we are working with basic forms or a multi-step form, we need certain validations. We can also go ahead and plug in that. And as you see, it's pretty much able to provide you the pseudocode which you can actually implement and enhance. So I will take a pause from at this particular point before the last part. I know there is about 5 minutes, but any questions till now?
There is one from Latif regarding the license. So I think you kind of answered it, but I think Latif
Yeah,
is kind of.
licensing is an elaborate concept. I'll come to that. Probably I'll take it up later. But the last part which we wanted to discuss was the XRM toolbox. So XRM toolbox is pretty much a downloadable tool. So once you download, there is something called the tools library which gets enabled. You go to the tools library, you have tons of tools that have been built by the community members. You can go ahead and you can add the tool which is specific to you. If you're working with Dataverse, if you're working with Power Apps portals or Power Pages, if you're working with Power Apps, all of these particular systems are the Power Platform in itself, including the Dynamics world. There are quite a lot of intelligent tools which are available. The most important three tools that I kind of regularly work with are the Fetch XML Builder, the Dataverse REST Builder, and Portal Code Editor. So I'm just going to already have created a connection here to my Praxis environment, so I'm not going to waste time connecting it. So what you can see here is it provides you the ability to create these particular queries that we saw, right? So for example, let me open. So we had this web template, and we had to get the fetch XML, right? So in order to build this, I mean, if you're new or if you're starting out and if you're confused of how do I really get this, how do I filter, how do I sort by, pretty much you can use the fetch XML builder and you can come in here. I'm just going to delete this so that I can start from fresh. The default query is I'm going to get the top 50 records and I'm going to add the entity. The first thing that I'm going to do is select my entity. In my case, this is the table name, Primus Praxis Offers. And then I'm going to click on select attributes, which gives me the ability to say these are all the metadata and all the existing columns which are available in that particular table for me to take a look at. I know that these are my custom columns, and I'm going to just select these particular custom columns. And you can additionally do something called show metadata, which will provide the logical name, the data type of that particular column as well. So you can actually look at these particular stuff, on the go itself instead of actually going back into the table API or the schema definition. So usually the schema definition is available. It is hidden here. So let me just go ahead and showcase where it is hidden. It's quite tricky. So I have a solution I mentioned, right? So I'm going to go to this solution. So if you're working with tables or if you're working with certain solutions, then you would have quite a few components that you add within your solution. So especially with tables, this is where all the aspects pertaining to the inner logical names and how to access the particular table is available. So what you see here is the logical of the table definition of that particular table. And then if you want to have an API link to the table data, you can click here. So pretty much it kind of gives you the top 10 records, fetches the records from that, and it gives you the API query required for you to be able to get that information. And you can also make API calls similarly to what you're seeing and model yours instead of relying upon liquid code. So, uh, so I'm just going to go here, and the next step is I'm going to click on execute. So once you click on execute, it starts giving you the results of what is the data that you're going to see or what is the data that you're going to fetch. Additionally, if you feel like you want to add some columns which have dual names, you can go ahead and do that. And then pertaining to the columns, you can go ahead and say show the layout XML, and you can pretty much see how the layout XML is. And this fetch XML, if it is not available here in the window, you can pretty much go here and click on fetch XML, and then it will generate it for you. So you can use this. And additionally, if you want to filter, group by, order, all of that clauses, if you configure, you can intelligently complete your fetch XML queries and embed that into your web template components. Let's say you don't have access to XRM toolbox. What is your other option? Before we go there, I'm just going to quickly showcase portal code editor, code editor, and then move there. So I'm going to load items. I'm already connected to my environment. This enhanced data model is something to look at, definitely. I would say as a Procode developer, um, downloading and uploading the sites with the new enhanced model, there might be certain additional configurations which could be required. So that is an open thread. Yes. Yeah, so if you're working with only the code that is required for you, or if you're actually trying to analyze any existing implementation, like for example, I have the after school registration template. And if I want to understand what are some of the content snippets that have been used, I just go here and I can pretty much look at what is the text that is being generated and what is the HTML. So this tool also helps you pretty much with uh, quickly understanding what is the code of any of your existing templates. So in order for you to get inspired to generate similar kind of components for your particular implementation. So I kind of rely upon the portal code editor, look at some of the existing samples, how they have done, what are some of the best practices that have been built, because these templates are coming into the Power Pages Design Studio through Microsoft. So there must be some amount of work or thought process that must have gone through when developing these particular templates, and how you can make those particular components interactive, responsive, all of those particular tricks and tips you can actually pick up from the portal code editor. And all the web templates as well are pretty much exposed. You can go ahead and you can take a look into any of these particular web templates and you will be able to see that. So yeah, this is about the portal code editor and the fetch XML builder. Last but not the least, let's take a quick look of how you can, if you don't have the XRM toolbox, how can you actually generate the similar fetch XML queries or create a portal's web API query on the fly? Can you do that? So the last aspect is yes, you can do that. There is a browser extension called Dataverse REST Builder, which was pretty much available through the XRM toolbox as well. I'm going to go here, provide the URL of my database. I'm going to get the access token. It will ask me to authenticate. So I'm going to create a new collection. I'm going to create a new request. Uh, so let's imagine that I want to get a single item or a multiple items. So similarly, how we generate in Fetch XML Builder, I'm going to just say I want to get maximum about 10 records. Retrieve count, I would say yes, and I'll say this is the table practice offers. Now what this is, this it gets all the table schema and definition in the background, and it binds it to the following columns. And you can pretty much similarly, like how you did in the XML builder, you can choose the columns that you would want to see. So here I want an ID column as well. So pretty much all these columns, and I'll skip some of the out of the box columns. And I don't have any relationships that I need to or lookup columns here, so I don't want to, kind of use these options. But if you do have complex entity relationships, it does provide you the ability to configure them as well. I don't have a filter by or an order by clause as well, so I'll just keep that empty. So you click on results, it pretty much actually executes an asynchronous call in the background and allows you to copy the results. But what it also does, it is on the fly, it actually generates the fetch XML. So if you didn't have a fetch XML builder or the XRM toolbox, you could use this and you could pick up this particular fetch code and embed it into your web template. The next one option is the portals, which is basically to create your safe Ajax calls, the portals web API calls. If you had to in real time, create a JavaScript code, which would probably access your Praxis offers table, get all the description column, image name, picture column, all of that, it would pretty much use the following wrapper, right? And it would make the following call with the following headers and stuff. So this is pretty much how you can directly take this and utilize it into your JS as well, and make the relevant changes and perform, um, you know, you know, activities like developing your own set of components. So these are the capabilities. I think pretty much I've covered everything. The last part I wanted to touch base upon is why is that my component, the interactive component, we'll take a quick look. I might have messed up the way I've developed the web template component, but yeah, apologies there, but I'll just quickly um, try to showcase what could be going wrong there. Let's take a look. I filtered by my site, and this is my web template. So, or rather, let's open it from Visual Studio Code. We can view it much better. Yeah, and I don't need this as well. Yeah. So in order for debugging, I would always recommend that you use the following code wrapper. which is basically to, once you fetch all the, once your job is executed, if XML job is executed, and you're able to get all these attributes, you just do a loop through of it and add it onto the page itself. Once you're able to view all the results, then you kind of build your dynamic UI with all the liquid conditions intact for you to be able to generate that particular dynamic component. So the important aspect is, are we using these particular properties which we have exposed here? So let's see, interval, count, height, and title. So I think what I have not done is I have not come back and set these particular values for the carousel. So here, if I have to set the interval is set here. So if you see, this is the liquid code to basically say that whatever property has been set from the UI, apart from the default, if there is a content manager or content author logging in and he changes the interval, the value gets changed here. So that's what should happen. And I think I've made it dynamic. Probably I could be failing in certain, certain aspects pertaining to the web template component. But since there is lack of time here for another day, if you have any queries pertaining to this, you could reach out to me on LinkedIn or other platforms, and we can take a connect, and I'll be able to fix this and post it probably as a blog as well, and so that you will have better understanding of how to develop web template components. Yeah, I think whatever I had planned to not exceed time, I have covered, Bhagavan. So thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity to the organizers and Bhagavan as well.
I think that was a super insightful session. Honestly, like one of the things I wanted to see is database risk builder. So I just wanted to try that. That's like, even though it was very quick but very useful as well. I think there is one from the licensing questions from licensing.
Yeah, so
from,
I can take the question pertaining to licensing. So to answer the question pertaining to licensing, Power Pages, I think I think after August, I think there was another licensing guide update. There is a Power Platform licensing guide update that happens quite frequently. I think about 3 to 4 months of a span. And in the recent changes, what I've seen is not pretty much, the changes were not pretty much on the Power Pages, and it is still packed with the Power Apps user license. So if you have that particular license, you pretty much have access to Power Pages and for your maker and other kind of abilities. And if you have those system role and administrator roles, you can go ahead and work with your make.powerpages.microsoft.com, create your sites and kind of use them under developer environment to promote them into sandbox trial or production. But let's say that you have a site which has been built and then you are actually taking it live. There is something called plan your project, which is actually an article by Microsoft. So I would recommend to use this particular article. So based on your audience, based on all of these particular questions that you answer, you will pretty much hit the pricing calculator of what effectively will be your audience aggregation. Like who will be using your particular site, how many anonymous users, how many authenticated users. Out of the authenticated users, how many of them are internal users and how many could be external users, how many amount of these particular users will be using external IDPs. So all of those particular classification and everything can come. Once you have that, you can pretty much activate, I would say, for customers who are actually getting onboarded newly and who don't understand their network traffic much in advance or their audience aggregation. I would encourage them to use the Power Pages pay-as-you-go licensing model. So basically, it just takes into account if there is an authenticated user, then the billing happens pertaining to that. If not, if nobody is using it, then it kind of, it really doesn't, you don't have to really worry about the pricing and stuff. But if you already have an effective volumetrics around how many of your users are going to use, let's say about 5,000 users are going to actively use in a month, and then you can actually plan around utilizing the Power Pages licensing model, which is exposed in the form of tiers, tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5. I think I don't remember it exactly. I think for 100 users per month per site is, yeah, in INR is about 15,706. It's for 100 users per site per month. But if it is volume based, and then you kind of have 10,000 users, which is more like a minimum requirement, you can add this as an additional pack, and then you have a price capacity pack as the following, right? So I think it might be cumulative in nature. It should be 15 plus 5. And then if this is, oh, no, I don't think so. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it should be that way. And then if it is more than 10,000 users, you just about tier 3, 100 users per capacity pack. There is a minimum requirement. This is a minimum requirement. It doesn't actually mean that it supports that many. The pack that you add is 100 users capacity pack, but you need to have a minimum requirement of 1 lakh users. Only then it kind of makes sense to get this particular pack. So I think it's always intelligent to work with Microsoft when you have customers looking for an effective licensing model. If they're new, they will have their own set of discounts, and that customer discounts which get applied, and they get onboarded onto the onboarded to utilize the platform. So that's how I kind of look at the licensing model, and it's a bit tricky because Microsoft does not have a unified licensing model for all the verticals, and licensing is more standalone in nature. And sometimes there could be surprises as well. But yeah, it's always good to go ahead and effectively plan your Power Pages project, and then uh, take a deep look into certain volumetrics before you actually analyze the pricing. Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. Just conscious of time, I think, Latif, you can reach out to Bhargav or either any of us. Like we are happy to help. EFI is usually not counted, so it's a separate license. Again, thank you everyone. Like, thanks for extending your time as well. Thank you for supporting the community. Bhargav, again, my heartfelt thanks. I think it was a really great session, man. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.